award-winning fashion brand called Brunch. Brunch London is a fitness and athleisure brand, and it specialises in workout headwear. It's the first brand of its kind that protects against sweat, heat and moisture, and is the first to cater specifically for all hair types and textures. So I'm the founder of Brunch London. I also have a nutrition club based in Ruislip. I run a monthly sofa sweat class. I'm a personal trainer as well, qualified. So we help people get in shape and get into fitness in Ruislip. I'm a speaker also, so I'll explain how crowdfunding journey brought about speaking opportunities. So I've spoken at numerous business events, membership groups, about crowdfunding, also about wellbeing and entrepreneurship. And I also write about the same topics. So I've written 4 publications, such as Stylist and others, just as I share the journey as much as possible, and it just attracts the opportunity. So I'm going to be talking about crowdfunding specifically. So how I actually got into speaking about crowdfunding was I actually launched a crowdfund for my brand Brunch London. So I had this like really detailed 8 to 12 week plan of how it was going to work. I was like, I'm going to get my like some samples, I'm going to do like a photo shoot. I had all these like real detailed ideas of how the crowdfund was going to go. And then the pandemic hit. So all of those ideas went out of the window, and I kind of had 2 decisions. I was like, I can either wait to see how long this is going to last. Luckily I didn't go down that route. Or I can just go with what I've got. No resources, but you have to just be resourceful in that present time. So I'm like, I'm going to just be resourceful. I took to Instagram, I did a video, and I was like, I'm going to launch a crowdfund in 2 weeks. I have no product, I have no samples, I have no fancy camera, I've got iPhone. We just make it work. And I was like, if it happens, amazing. If it doesn't, no problem. At least I tried, and people will see me try. So I actually did the crowdfund with Crowdfund UK, and it had an initiative at the time called NatWest Back Her Business. So that was the platform that I went with. It was 6 weeks into the pandemic. It was the 1st of May 2020 that we launched the crowdfund. It was a 35-day crowdfund and raised £10,500 in that time from 225 people, thank you, and over 20 brands supported. So got the funds, because 10k was what I was going for, and I got the £10,500. That £500 was my family at the end, right? So it was amazing, and because people saw the journey, what was really great off the back of that was that I had people in my DMs now, and people are like, oh, I'm at idea stage. So a lot of people I speak to are at that idea stage, so maybe not quite ready for an investor just yet, or maybe they don't want to get a business loan because you don't want to all necessarily be in that situation where you have to pay somebody back or give away a portion of your business. So that's why I advocate crowdfunding so much, because it comes from the crowd. You don't have to pay anything or anyone back. So I was getting all these DMs. How do you do this? How were you able to get in the press at that time? Because I got an interview with BBC Radio London the day after the crowdfund, which was amazing. So I was getting all these questions. I'm like, right, I need to package this up into like a masterclass. So I delivered the masterclass a few months after. It was really successful, so I decided to run it again a few times. Put that on social media, and then like a member group like messaged, and they were like, oh, okay, I see you're doing running these masterclasses. Would you like to speak to our members about it? So I was like, yeah, of course, I'll deliver a masterclass to you guys. And then like another one like comes knocking, like Albright comes knocking, which is a female membership group. And I'm like, oh, I've seen that you're speaking about crowdfunding. Would you like to speak to our members? Here's a fee. So I'm like, sign me up. When is it? Tell me. So then another one comes along, and they're like, yeah, could you speak to our event about crowdfunding? Like, here's the fee. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Well, Albright, we're paying this. So can you match that? So it comes event to event. So it's a really great way to just like pay it forward. So now I do package that into like a 90-minute consultation. I obviously do not have 90 minutes now, but I was thinking, what are the best tips? So I'm giving you today 3 key tips from that 90 minutes that is going to be really helpful. I really wanted to just focus on tips that you can use before your crowdfund goes live, if you decide to crowdfund, and then during your crowdfund. These are tips that are just going to be really super useful. I am a former teacher before I got into Brunch London, so I love an acronym, and I love using alliteration, okay, so bear with. So I packaged it into the 3 C's, all right? So connection, consistency, and contribution. And I'm focusing these tips based specifically on the crowd. A lot of people, when they crowdfund, and obviously the outcome is you want the money, you want the funding. But a lot of people forget about the crowd. It is about the people, because at the end of the day, you are asking people to part with their coins, to invest into you and to invest into your brand. Okay, so you've got to care about the crowd as much as they're going to care about what it is that you're doing. So first C is connection, and two super important things that I share in the consultation, the masterclass I deliver, is be a master storyteller and a master promoter. Two key things. What I mean by that is you've got to really know how to share your story and to share your journey. Yes, like in a pitch, 100%, but people want to see what it is you're doing. They want to know why you do what you do, what you stand for, what your values are, why you are launching your product, your brand, your initiative, what the reasons are behind it, and how you're actually doing it, because people love it behind the scenes. Like, I don't know, I'm like one of the people, I follow a brand and I'm like, who is the founder? I like, want to know like what the founder does in the day-to-day. So that is super important. And you can package that in lots of different ways. If you follow my Insta, I'm always yappa on the stories all the time, because people love that, and you've got to treat it like an emotive backstory to the main show, which is essentially the crowdfund, right? So it's almost like a trailer. Do people want to see the main show? Like if you think of like X Factor and The Voice, they roll the VT and you see like the emotional backstory before that person's even like dropped a note, because it gets you in your feels, right? It gets you into a state of, I really want to support that person, so you've got to do the same with your crowdfund and do that consistently. So you can package that in terms of stories, like I love to do, written content, LinkedIn, great way to do like long form content. There's so many ways that you can do that and just do that consistently, because you want to get that emotional support from that person. Like, I really want to back this person. I see them working hard, I really want to back them. And then you want to be a master promoter at the same time. So great, you've got all this emotional support from people, and people are like giving you your flame emojis, that's great, but we actually need to direct them into like an action, right? So we need a call to action. So sharing the journey, absolutely love it. What do you want people to do with that? What is that last sentence or that last thing you get them to do? Do you want them to sign up to your mailing list? You know, so that when you drop the crowdfund, they're there. Do you want them to tap the link in your bio so that they can pledge to your crowdfund? Do you want them to, turn their notifications on so they can follow the journey? So when you do a countdown, they're ready and they're there. Give them some reason, give them an action. People like to be directed. So master your story and master your promotions. That's connection. Yeah, the first C. The second C is consistency. And this can be a really hard one. Actually, rewind, it's not a hard one. People can think it's a hard one when they're working full-time or when they're working part-time, because they're like, how do I be consistent? Kaylee, I find it hard to even post like twice a week. And you want me to be consistent. You've got to be consistent because everyone else is busy. So as much as you're sharing something twice a week, people are going to forget. So you need to be in their face, and you need to really exercise that omnipresence as much as possible. I would personally say, so when I did my crowdfund, there was no offline anything, so I only had online. I didn't have that option. So offline, when you're going to networking events, you need to speak to people and tell them who you are and what you do. And that's often why I go to networking events alone. Sometimes I do have friends, yeah. But sometimes you just got to deliberately make yourself uncomfortable, so you have no reason but to speak to people. Because when I went to the first Afro Club Bar event, the first person I spoke to was Ram. Actually, the first person I spoke to was Stanley, because I didn't know where the event was. He told me to go upstairs, and then I bumped into Rama, and then we ended up speaking. So you've got to get yourself uncomfortable to speak. Online, when it comes to omnipresence, I would say be on a minimum of two social media platforms. A minimum. And the reason I say that is because different platforms have different audiences, and different audiences have different set of behaviors completely. So I'll give an example. After I crowdfunded, you can actually check your data. So what I found was that on Instagram, I was getting a lot more support, and the typical pledge donation was like £10 to £25. Whereas on LinkedIn, I had less supporters, but the average pledge was like £50, £100 plus. Like some people are dropping like £150, and I'm like, I don't even know you. So I really love that. I think that's quite a lot for some of you don't know. Personally. So it was higher on LinkedIn. So where you've got those two different audiences is really key. In terms of how do I, make myself present on both platforms in terms of time, etc. Learn the art of repurposing repurpose. So actually in the consultation, I actually demonstrate how I use my crowdfunding video, literally a 2.5 minute video, and I just share how I created 57 pieces of content from that one video, which you can use on all platforms. And I do it to this day, like I on the stories yesterday, I repurposed that into a reel, put it on my TikTok, put it on my LinkedIn, put it on my Facebook. Like, just get the message out as much as possible. When you do that consistently, you even do that after the crowdfund. But you've got to let people know you exist. You can have like the best brand, the best intentions in the world, but if only 2 little people know, yeah, or just your family and friends know, you're not going to be able to get out to the people who are essentially going to, support your crowdfund. The last C is contribution. There is a really great line, which I love, which is 1% of 100 people's efforts is better than 100% of one person's effort. So what I mean by that is you can have 2 people crowdfunding for 10K. I always use 10K as an example because that's what I raise. One person can have 100 people drop £100 and then they've got the funds, and then you can have another person have 2 people dropping 5K each. You're still going to get the funds, but where you're going to get the support from the former person, that support is valuable because they all have a network, they can all speak about what you're doing, they can be your first customers, that's customer acquisition right there, okay? Even if they're not your customer or in your niche, they will guarantee know someone who is. So that is where so much value is. So I would definitely, and you can leverage that as well to get the funds, because one of the huge objections I have from people who do masterclass or consultation, and they have so much intention but they're scared, and I get why it's scary. Like, I will just go into the deep end and be like, I'll see what I can do because I need to skill build, and I'm quite transparent with being out there. Like, I'm not shy in terms of sharing the journey, because business journey has ups and downs and you just kind of got to face that. But people are scared. They're like, I'm scared that no one will pledge, I'm scared that no one will donate, I'm scared that it'll look like I'm begging for money. A lot of people say that. They're scared how it's going to come across. But what I would say with that is leverage the crowd. So with Crowdfunder, each kind of crowdfunding platform has different criteria. So with Crowdfunder, they said, we are only going to release that 10K to you if the crowd is at least 100 people. That was their criteria. It had to be a minimum of 100 people. So I leveraged that. So instead of asking, can you pledge £10, £20, and especially in those times, it was uncertain times. Like, no one knew it was like fresh pandemic. It was a very scary time. So financially, people, weren't in the best place, but there's no such thing as a perfect financial place. But I leveraged the crowd. So what I said was, I would message somebody and I'd be like, I would love you to be part of that 100 people. So I need to get to 100 people. I'd love if you could be one of those people. And it kind of gets a feeling of community and the feeling of, you want me to be one of the 100 people? That's how you want them to feel, as opposed to, I need your £10 or I need your £100. People love to feel part of like a club, a group. That's why we have, Afro Club. That's why we have membership groups like Soho House. That's why we have, some of them are like high ticketed. People want to feel part of something linked to their status or their reason. So you want to give them that reason with your crowdfund. I was, partly responsible for the launch of this brand, which got to this place. So, making people feel like that and making people feel super valued is definitely something I recommend in terms of leveraging, and then you can repurpose that, which I definitely did on socials. And, at the end of each day, I was like, thank you to the following people who supported the crowdfund today. And what do? Because people like to feel like a good person, they will be shared that onto their platform. And then what they do, there's other eyes, and then from there you can message those people. So those are the 3 C's.